Ave Satanas! Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Hail Satan!
Greetings, heathens. Welcome to Hail Satan. This is the podcast exploring Satanism, culture, and life in general through the eyes of modern Satanists. My name is Joseph Rose. I'm a member of the finest satanic congregation in the land. We're called Satanic Delco, and we welcome members from anywhere in the world. If you want to learn a little more, visit satanicdelco.com. Today, we're going to talk about what is so great about Satanism. And for balance, we'll talk a little about what's wrong with Satanism too. But first, if you have a moment out there, please visit the website at hailsatanpodcast.com. You'll find links there to join me on social media. There's a form to send me an email and a link to join up with the whole gang on Patreon. We have different tiers to choose from with various benefits, including the amazing Greetings from Hell Satanic Postcard of the Month Club. That is the most direct way you can support me and this show if you'd like to do that. Visit hailsatanpodcast.com. All right, guys. I am joined once again by a woman who loves Red Bull and wants to fuck Rick Beato. Welcome back to the show, Kirsten.
That's probably the finest introduction I've ever been given.
You don't like it?
No, it's just so, you love a specific introduction.
Well, yeah, you like Red Bull. You love Red Bull, and you do.
I do love
have
Red
a feeling
Bull.
about Rick Beato. So
yeah, I never really, I don't know if I ever really thought about it until you asked. But when you asked, I was like, yeah.
You knew the answer right away. Well, welcome back. Do you know what we're doing here, and are you ready to do it?
I'm ready for whatever you throw at me.
I asked two questions to Satanic Delco. What's great about Satanism and what's wrong with Satanism? I have answers in the form of short audio clips from some of the gang. I imagine in some cases we'll have things to say about their answers, but sometimes maybe not. So let's get started.
All right.
You ready? First up, we have Audra. Let's just listen to what she has to say.
What's great about Satanism to me is that our religion promotes freedom and critical thinking, and we're encouraged to challenge the status quo and to challenge ourselves in the process and grow as people and not really be held to arbitrary laws and rules that others make for us that some people may not have even questioned.
All right. I heard freedom, critical thinking, encouraged to challenge the status quo and ourselves even. I feel all that stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Audra's response to this is a really good, it's truthful, but very general. If anybody asks you, why are you a Satanist? I think a lot of people would say those things that Audra said. She put it into
those are a lot of the
good,
broad
brief
strokes.
words, yeah.
And here's what she thinks is wrong or not so great about Satanism.
What's wrong with Satanism? I think for me, this answer is pretty much the same as what's wrong with most religions. There are a lot of shady people that get involved, and they use the religion in ways that is not only detrimental to the religion itself, but also to the adherents of the religion. It only takes a few bad eggs, and it seems like they always find their way to the top. And, especially with Satanism, because we already kind of have this mantle of the outsider and we're thought of as dark and bad and evil, it can be exceptionally challenging. And when you have a lot of people running around intentionally kind of fucking things up for everyone else, it's a problem. But like I said, I think you find that in most religions.
Yeah, so that one is basically shady people get involved.
Yeah, and I agree, shady people get involved and do shit, but I also think to some extent it's not just shady people, it's just a lot of other people's Satanism getting in the way.
What do you mean?
Where
just disagreements
about Satanism.
When somebody just says that, like shady people get involved, depending on who you ask, where they are in their Satanism, what kind of Satanism is their thing, you're going to get different types of answers. Some people are going to say, and I'm not talking shit, I'm just being real here. Oh, this is TST, it's Lucian Greaves and these guys, they're just running a scam or whatever. Some people would say it's somebody like me. Somebody would say, I don't know, even, well, it's ridiculous to say the Church of Satan because they kind of started modern Satanism. Not kind of, they did. But you still say some people, oh, it's bullshit. They just want your $200 and what do you get for it? But yeah, I would be curious to know, but maybe that's another day. All right, next up, let's hear from Tommy.
What is great about Satanism? Satanism to me is freedom. I'm free to say what I want. I'm free to express myself the way that I see fit. I'm free to take care of myself the way that I see fit. I don't have to live up to anybody's expectations or a supernatural expectation. It is freedom and caring for others.
All right. Tommy likes the freedom that he feels within Satanism. Free to express himself and freedom from expectations.
Yeah, and I think that's a big draw for a lot of people, especially those that came from more less free religions, restrictive. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but especially people that have left other religions. I think freedom is a big draw to Satanism because it just feels so much more open.
Yeah, way less restrictive, and yeah, we've talked about that. Of course, if you're into Satanism already, at least deep enough that you'd be listening to this podcast, you're probably into that part of it. Let's see, what does Tommy think is wrong with Satanism?
For my journey thus far, it can be isolating somewhat. It can be difficult to navigate because you are isolated or alone sometimes. It's difficult to find Satanists at times. We don't run around the grocery store wearing all of our satanic gear. It can be a very... a solo journey.
Yeah, Satanism can be isolating, I guess.
Yeah, it can be isolating even if you do have a group of Satanists to talk to sometimes because, one thing that Satanists always say is that it's like an individualistic religion. Yeah. But when you get into these groups, then your individualism could really stand out to a group of hive-minded people.
Yeah, well, like anything, it really depends on your specific surroundings. But yeah, as Tommy mentioned, the idea of it being isolating, I wish there were some way to have a number of like how many active self-identifying Satanists are there in the world or in the United States at least. And let's divide those up into, all right, how many like TST type of political Satanists do you have? How many Church of Satan, how many theistic Satanists, whatever. I'd love to just know. Just to see what those numbers really look like, because sometimes it seems like there's a lot because we put ourselves in a bubble where we're just seeing a lot of Satanism all over the place. But if you live in any normal place and you walk around town, the extreme minority of people you're going to run into are Satanists, I would imagine, unless you live in a wild fucking town. So yeah, if community is an aspect that you're looking for in your religious practice or experience, Satanism is in a good place for that because we're so connected online. But if you're a person that's not super connected online, that's a struggle. You're not going to have that traditional community the way your average Christians in an average middle-class town find themselves in.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of go a little farther out of our way to make it happen. We just have to be more conscious of it. And sometimes that still doesn't take the place of in-person things. If you live in a town where you just don't have satanic friends, you don't know any, or you haven't been able to find any, that's a bummer. Not that everybody has to be the same religion to hang out with one another, but sometimes it's nice to have that.
Yeah.
All right. We have Patience up next.
What is great about Satanism? The variety of Satanists that I've met, the empowerment that comes with the internal and external work to deepen my satanic understanding, the constant reminder to make sure I'm not solely in service of others, but that I am serving myself, which has improved my life and all those who I love through my shameless authenticity.
All right. Patience is experiencing a wide variety of different people in Satanism. Empowerment, a reminder to serve oneself, and shameless authenticity. And I think that one, I know I've had a chat or two with Patience about such a thing, and I think she's a pretty good example of someone who does have she kind of embraces her individuality.
Yeah.
Authentic self. I like that a lot. I think that's an important quality in a person generally, certainly a Satanist.
Yeah, there is nothing that I could say that is more eloquent than Patience put it herself. I think I agree. Patience does seem very authentic and true. And I don't know, Patience, when I hear you talk, I want to have every perspective that you have and just put it in my brain and make it mine.
And she's experiencing maybe not exactly the opposite, but something different than the isolation. She's enjoying a wide variety of Satanists.
Yeah.
You know, and there is a wide variety. And you know, I'm always on this podcast singing the praises of Satanic Delco and how we do it better than every other group, which of course is 100% true. But one of the specific examples of that is that I think over time we have consistently had a good variety of Satanists.
Oh, yeah.
Even today, you know, we have a good collection of different Satanists that might come to the table with a different perspective, and we kind of are fine with that and make it work.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about some of the different things, we ask some questions, and it just kind of is what it is. You know, from time to time, it's not the most common in our group, but from time to time, we have a person in the group who identifies as some sort of a theistic Satanist.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well, yeah, that's the most obvious sort of big difference, right? If you're a Satanist, most of us are all atheistic, modern Satanists, whatever you want to call it. But occasionally someone with a different, completely different view of Satanism rolls in for whatever reason. They like what we're up to. They want to check out the vibe, whatever. And there is no pouncing on a person for what the fuck, you believe in this, blah, blah, blah. Like you could do it that way. But really, what good is that? I mean, you can do that most anywhere on the internet. So yeah, I agree. It's cool to have a variety of Satanists and you can learn some things. Let's see what else Patience had to say about what is wrong with Satanism.
Well, for me, in my infancy, as a self-proclaimed satanic individual, I don't have the energy, passion, or care for finding fault with other satanic groups. I'm focused on my main concerns, which are family, career, and enjoying life the best that I can. When I run into the energy of one group versus another, I often feel a little drained. It's not my jam, and it does not nourish me at this point in my satanic journey. And that's basically the only thing that I've run into in Satanism that has that effect of drain. And that's easily avoidable because I have so many options and choices on where I put my attention.
Patience does not enjoy the satanic drama.
Yeah.
She's the opposite of you.
I don't, well,
You love it.
I think it's interesting to follow.
Yeah. You like to watch it like a weird TV show.
One thing I hate is I hate not knowing things. So if people are talking about something, I got to get to the bottom of it, you know?
Yes. You have to read every last comment and message and everything.
Yeah, so I want to get to the bottom of some of that drama. And also I like to sit and sort of judge every side of it, you know?
Yeah. And that's reasonable.
No,
I mean, on one hand, it can be all of these things at once, right? Like on one hand, yeah, there's some tasty drama going on. You want to get in there and see what these fucks are doing. It's like a car crash. But then if you really do want to understand what's going on and get to the bottom of it, you need to hear different sides of the story, see what different takes people have and maybe why they have them. And so that's what you do. And that's reasonable. That's fair.
Yeah. But I guess to get back to what Patience was saying, I really don't like when occasionally our server, I feel like, gets a little bit anti something.
Yeah, when there's, recently we've had this flood of groups leaving TST and everybody breaking off and doing their thing and the whole drama. There's always drama with Loose and Greaves and the whole thing. And during that, obviously that's noteworthy satanic stuff. That's Satan news. And so we're going to talk about it. And so we have a channel dedicated to TST stuff on our server, of course. And the news isn't good. So like when the news isn't good, there's going to be a lot of that. If it's like, here's another group left TST today, and we'll talk about that. And some people will be like, yeah, fuck TST, figures another group left. And a couple people might be like, oh, this is crazy. I had a good experience with TST. And we talk about it, and it's fine. There are times where, for my taste, it's too much. But as Patience said, that's okay because we have options. We don't have to look at that article. We don't have to look at that channel. We don't have to partake in it. We can just go look at something else.
Yeah.
But all right, let's keep going. Let's hear from Christian all the way from Alaska.
What is good about Satanism? Self-reconciliation, the ability to empower oneself to be free to live without shame of being what you truly are.
This dude is right down to business.
Yeah.
You hear that?
I know.
That was like
very brief
professional, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Reconciliation, empower oneself, live without shame. Can't really complain about any of that.
No.
Very broad strokes, but he knows what he's into.
Yeah.
Let's hear what he thinks about what is wrong with Satanism.
What is not good about Satanism? Interesting question. Satanism is extremely marginalized, feared, and outright hated by a majority of our society. This, however, is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can lead to potential solitude or isolation, in part due to normative religious fears from other people. Again, not necessarily a bad thing if one has the mental and psychological fortitude and internal drive to live this kind of life.
He sounds like Sam Elliott doing a voiceover narration.
Yeah, he does have a little bit of a Sam Elliott vibe. I'm gonna Photoshop Christian with a Sam Elliott mustache. Remind me to do that.
All right.
He mentioned being marginalized and the isolation again. And, it's funny, a couple people have mentioned that now, and I wouldn't be surprised if more people have that feeling. But it isn't one that ever would have occurred to me.
Yeah, I think a couple people mentioned that, and I don't remember if somebody said this specifically, but there are people who get into some bad things and then say they're Satanists.
What do you mean, like a Richard Ramirez?
Like your Richard Ramirez's. And then, even to this day, we still get news articles that are about somebody who clearly had a psychiatric emergency and did something bad and then said they're a Satanist. And that gets, shared around as a fun headline for everyone to share around, even though we're...
And it's funny, there's plenty of Satanists out there, actual Satanists, who commit crimes, have problems, commit crimes, get in trouble. And of course, because they're people, they're just people, and sometimes people break the law or make mistakes or do whatever. That's just going to happen. But when it happens, it's normally not a part of their Satanism. They're not like sacrificing someone in the name of Satan because they're a Satanist. They just happen to be breaking some fucking law, and they happen to be a Satanist. Next up, we're going to hear from Malith. And pardon me if I mispronounce. It's a struggle.
What's great about Satanism? I think in the aspect of modern Satanism, it for sure is the community of people with strong and healthy opinions, who won't shy away when speaking what's on their mind. And everyone is free to do so, without any negative judgment. Plus, every religion talks about liberty and individual empowerment, but they mostly just talk. On the other hand, Satanists really try their best to fight for that, for everyone, and not just for their own community. Where do you really find this mindset, if not in Satanism?
All right. Community, not shy, judgment-free.
Yeah, and what Malice said about fighting for liberty and empowerment, and Satanism walks the walk where other religions might, or everyone talks about it, but other religions might talk about finding liberty and empowerment. But Satanism, it's not just offering you the tools to get there, it's telling you have to go do this on your own. Whereas I think Christianity might talk about self-empowerment, but it's all like, you need to do these things. It's you need to follow the word of God or whatever.
Yeah. And it almost, it feels like Satanism should be more popular than it is, or more known, because it seems naturally easier to sort of go along with and be a Satanist, because at its core, Satanism focuses on the self quite a bit. Some call it a selfish religion, a carnal religion, things that encourage your own satisfaction, mental, physical, whatever it might be. Whereas Christianity, at least, has a real focus on abstinence and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's a struggle. Christianity is asking you to struggle, like on the face of it. They're saying you got to like go against these feelings. And Satanism is saying, go with yourself, man. Benefit yourself.
Yeah, and also I think that Satanism is saying like you need to do this work, and all of those like 12-step programs that are rooted in just Christianity, I guess.
A higher power.
Yeah, I know that not everybody who goes through those programs sees that as the Christian God. They can take those 12 steps and that higher power and make it whatever they need it to be. But in its origin, it's saying you don't have the power to fix this yourself. God's going to help you do it for you. Satanism's like, no, bitch, you have to do something for yourself.
You want help?
Yeah. Yeah, you want help, like help yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the general idea of like, this whole thing is to benefit you. This is all in service of you, as opposed to you need to struggle and change your feelings to be in service of the Lord, who, you know. All right, what does she say is wrong with Satanism?
What's wrong about Satanism, you ask, Joseph? I had to think hard here because I found the right community for me and I support it 100%. But do we want to scare off people or don't? To be scary gives us a certain type of attention, yeah, that we sometimes need or we're not taken seriously. Sadly, I get that. We have a long way ahead of us, that's for sure. But I know we are colorful and bubbly persons. Because I have this kind of typical gothic look going on, but I'm a very joyful person and met so many similar people. But how do we take this outside to see for the ones who think Satanists are eating children and or will put a curse on them? Maybe we need to show more color in our symbols? I don't know.
She says Satanism is misunderstood.
Yes. What stood out to me was those words, "we're not taken seriously," which sounded kind of like a throwaway comment, but it got me thinking about it. And I definitely think we need to be, Satanists need to be taken seriously for a lot of their political beliefs and their, and any part of, like, I guess, religion, that the benefits that would come from being a recognized religion in any way. But aside from that, if you take away your rights to abortion or your rights to have your people in schools, your whatever it is, whatever rights we're fighting for, do you need to be taken seriously as a Satanist? You know, politics isn't, you're not in Satanism for politics, so let's remove all that for a second. Do you personally feel like you need to be taken seriously as a Satanist, or does that not matter to you because you're serious about it?
I don't even know what that means. And yeah, in my case, there is no connection to politics whatsoever, so we can just completely remove that from the equation. So what my Satanism comes down to is, I guess, first, the most obvious thing is I don't believe in God, right? I'm an atheist, and so I don't believe in God, so there's that. People are going to have a feeling about that right off the bat. And then beyond that, it's personal. The rest of it is all just personal. It's how I feel, it's how I see the world, it's whatever. So I want to be taken seriously by individuals in my life who I give a shit about, because otherwise I don't care about their opinion of me. I don't even know if they have an opinion about me because I couldn't care about such a thing. So it's not so much that I care about being taken seriously as a Satanist, but I just want to have the basic amount of respect that I ought to have as a person in someone's life. You know, if you're my friend, I want a basic amount of respect from you.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about Satanism.
Yeah, you don't care that the people of Oklahoma are all stressed out about Satanists, because that doesn't matter to you. That they don't like that it's annoying, but it's not because you are a Satanist. It's annoying because they're all idiots.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, now, to say I don't care, I'm not saying I don't, as a person, care about those issues. You say Oklahoma, and that's what? They're putting the Ten Commandments in the schools and shit.
They just got a bunch of Satan scares right now. There was talk about chaplains in schools.
Yes.
Then there was just recently that guy said he's going to have Bibles in every school.
Right, right. As a Satanist, I don't care about that stuff because my Satanism has nothing to do with politics or the government. As a person, I don't like that shit, and I think they need to stop.
Yeah.
I don't like the putting religion, any religion, in public schools and mandating it into any level of the government. I don't like any of that, and I think it should stop. And I think as individuals with basic, voting power or whatever you have, that is the method with which you should attack those kind of things. To me, it's not really a religious discussion at all, and my feelings about it aren't based on my Satanism. They're based on the Constitution says get religion out of there, and so keep it the fuck out of there. That's the way I interpret that. This is the last one from the gang here, maybe. How many have I got here? Let's have one from Liart.
One of the biggest positives to me is community. And with that comes a lot of different perspectives on similar beliefs. Another fantastic positive is the open-mindedness of many of the people within Satanism and that Satanism brings to people outside of Satanism. My final, but definitely not least positive in Satanism, is that it gives people a sense of direction and tells people to be their own God. It tells people to hail thyself, and instead of praying and believing in something that you never see, never hear, never feel, you can believe in yourself. Something that you can truly touch, something that you can hear when you speak, something that you can see in the mirror, see when you look down.
All right. We've got community, differing perspectives and open-mindedness, self-empowerment and the like. What do you think?
Yeah, the thing that stands out to me the most about what Lyard said is it giving people a sense of direction.
Yes.
Because I think that is something that a lot of people in the world are aimlessly searching for sometimes. We don't know why we're here or where we're going. We're thrown into it.
Especially in an atheistic religion.
Well, yeah, so that
sense of direction comes from the Lord for so many.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. So I think that's partially why there's a big draw for religionists.
What?
I don't know. There's a lot of ex-Mormons and a lot of ex-Christians and a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists and all these religions that they all find their way to Satanism. And I don't think that it's all 100% just like a rebellion. I think rebellion might be part of it, but there's a lot of people that come from families and they still love their families very much, but they're afraid they can't tell people they're a Satanist because they know that that's going to be a problem, but they still want to be a Satanist because it's giving people a sense of direction. And so they're not rebelling. It's rebelling maybe internally, but it's not rebelling for the aesthetic of it. It's for you. It's the sense of direction. And then you can move on and take whatever kind of Satanism you're practicing and help that or let that help you guide
and being a Satanist, identifying as a Satanist, especially, particularly if you're telling friends and family and putting it on your Facebook or whatever, that is a real conscious choice that has to be made. Because you could take all of the various values of Satanism and feel them and align with them and want to live them and call yourself an atheist and just still be exactly as you are.
Yeah.
Nothing really changes. But that addition of Satanism is a real conscious choice. There's a specific moral code and all of that stuff, a whole separate philosophies that come along with your flavor of Satanism. That is a real conscious choice that comes with the known baggage of having to deal with Satan and all that means to the rest of the world. Let's see what he's got to say about what's wrong with Satanism.
One of my biggest negatives, and I'm sure that many of us in Satanic Delco can agree, is that TST seems to pretty much be the face of modern Satanism. Another one of my negatives would be the lack of Satanists in my area to hang out with. I'm sure there are some, but we're very hard to find considering Satanism is in its infancy, and there's really not a lot of people that are very open to being Satanists. And not only that, but I believe that more of our community should get in on that fantastic Zoom that we have every Monday night.
Can't argue with them there.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a pretty healthy Zoom, I think, every week, but you could always have more.
Yeah.
You could always have more people. We've got room. He says TST is too prominent. Lack of Satanists to hang out with. We've run into that a few times, the isolation.
And if I can just, if what you're looking for is TST Satanism, that's probably the easiest to find and yet the hardest to get involved in, because if you live 2 hours away from the local congregation, you're not going to be
and in most cases it doesn't matter how close you live to the congregation because they're never going to answer your email.
Yeah, it takes a long time. So
everything we've ever heard is like people just they write to their local congregation for 6 months and they never hear back, and when they do hear back it's like a shitty reply and they just never what are you going to do? But I'm with them. That's all valid. We'll try to pump up the Zoom, keep everybody coming. But that's it for the gang. We could go on. We've got a bunch more, but we'll be here all day. Next up is you, Kirsten. why don't you share with us what you think is great about Satanism and what you think is wrong with Satanism?
What I think is great about Satanism is I'm sort of surprised no one mentioned it, but it's just fun, you know? It's fun to be a Satanist. Anything that you do in your life could be instantly made more fun if you just, are wearing your Hail Satan t-shirt and inverted crosses everywhere. It adds like romance to life, to ritualize things, or it's just a little spice, on top of everything that you already do. So if you need a little bit more fun in your life, you can do it in the name of Satan. It's more fun. Or you can use Satanism as an excuse to have more fun. And that is something that I constantly am thinking about myself. Like, I should use this whole Satanism thing to make myself have more fun. I don't really know how or what that looks like, but...
I mean, that's a good practical application of it.
But I never actually really find myself doing it in practice. But sometimes I'll think about it. I'll be like, I'm...
What's stopping you?
Well, I don't know. I don't really know what fun things I could go do. Like, I don't know what I'm looking for, other than I would like maybe the stuff that I'm already doing to feel a little bit more magical, maybe. I just need to find the ways to do that. So if that's buying the right candles, maybe that's what it is. But just in general, I think it's something that I've actually thought about.
Am I hearing that one of the good things about Satanism is that it's fun and it gives you a sort of direction toward this fun?
Yeah.
But you are not personally taking advantage of it?
I personally don't do it nearly. I constantly am telling myself that I need to, I guess, improve in this area. I don't know, allow myself to be a more fun human being.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not conscious or thinking about it enough, or consciously trying to discover what that looks like, and what that means that I will do differently, if anything. Sometimes I think I should add a little more ritual to things I already do. And I don't even necessarily mean like a satanic ritual, but like...
I mean, if a Satanist does a ritual, is it a satanic ritual?
But like you're getting your weed ready for the night,
Yeah. I love those rituals.
How can you make that more, what's it called? To me, it's an inconvenience,
Really?
I'm always like, the weed's over there, I'm over here, my Pax is over there.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, look, yes. We could derail this podcast right now so bad and go into a, preach to Kirsten type of vibe,
but
and I won't.
Everything feels kind of like that sometimes. All of the things even the things that you want to do, they all feel like they've got these little barriers in the way or something. To me, okay, it's whatever time of night, and I'm like, all right, well, I would like to have a little weed. If I could find a way to make that a little bit more ritualistic, and I don't mean, lighting candles and hailing Satan. I just mean,
let me tell you, when you said it, it came to my mind immediately, just a simple, quick way to sort of ritualize it without any sort of getting too deep or any woo anywhere in the room. It goes without saying that most of ritual generally exists in your mind, right? You don't necessarily have to be physically doing a tremendous amount of stuff for it to count. So what I would suggest to you is, using that example, it's the evening and you want to have your weed. That's a familiar thing for me. I think all you have to do is take a moment to frame it in your mind. You just say, now is the time for that. I'm going to do it. You're going to have to get up off your butt and go do it, but just get your weed and tell yourself, this is the time and place for this. Why do I want to do it?
Well, yeah.
What am I hoping to get from this? Let me consciously think about that, set an intention for all of 1 or 2 minutes, and then have my weed consciously while aiming myself mentally toward those goals, which could be relax, have fun, feel good, enjoy a song, enjoy a show while feeling stoned and thinking about the universe.
There are times I think that, I could be thinking, I got to get up and get my weed. I got to do whatever thing right now. But I'm thinking about it for an hour, and then it's late at night. I'm like, I didn't even do it. I never took the step to do the thing.
Yeah. Well, this is a laziness problem.
Well, I don't know. I just got to get stuck in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. So what was that? That was
my good thing is that Satanism is fun.
What do you think is wrong with Satanism?
Okay. So there's a lot of people who really tie their identities to what their type of Satanism is. And that if you are a different kind of Satanism, it's almost like a challenge to their identity or to what they want to be. And they feel very protective of their own beliefs instead of feeling like open to other people's perspectives on things or the fact that people might be different in whatever way. And I think that leads to a lot of like sort of childish behavior. So, I mean, really, what I started with when I wrote my bad comment was just childish. I was like, there's a lot of childish stuff. And then I was trying to get to the root of it. And I think that's a big part of it is this sort of like identity.
Yeah.
Satan identity. But
and this is, traditionally we talk about this in the context of Church of Satan. Like those are the guys that are most like protective of the identity of Satanism.
Yes, but they say it that way.
Right.
But I think that everybody does. I think that everybody's like, well, you can't be, how could you, I mean, I've literally seen people say, I don't understand how you could be a Satanist and not also want the whole world to be a commune,
Right.
Like I've gotten to, well, I've not been looking for fights, but people have been looking for fights with me. And because I've said, I didn't even say I disagree. I said, I don't think everyone thinks that. And people get riled up. I'll remember that conversation forever. But yeah, so there's people that really feel like because I'm a Satanist, anybody else who's a Satanist should agree with me, and that means we're all like-minded people, so we're all going to get along.
Oh yeah, that's
all that stuff.
Bullshit.
But really, yeah, the first thing I wrote was childish, and it's so easy to say things seem childish sometimes, I guess.
Right.
When it's any kind of drama, but sometimes it really does. Recently, I feel like there's been some really what I would call childish stuff. I would love to know how many Satanists work a traditional job versus some sort of like gig work type job, because if it's like 50% one way, well, half of you, then the other 50%, what do? You wake up in the morning and you go to school and you're a teacher and you teach children and you're very professional, and then you go home and you fight with people on the internet, and then like
or
like
I mean
whatever else, I don't.
Well, yeah, think
but,
about
I have
yourself.
A professional job. I know. I don't want to get into it, but like I have a
you have a
professional
job. You're an adult.
Yeah.
You live a life, and then you fight with people on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say professional job. Like I have a white collar job, I guess. I don't know if that's
you have an adult job.
And then I go home and I think this is crazy the way these people are acting and talking to each other.
Yeah.
Now that is not to say if you're like a tattoo artist, that is a professional, great job, whatever. But I think that you can like maybe goof off a little more also at your jobs than
you think?
Some other stuff. Depends on where you I guess where you work, but I know that some of them surely are.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Like you can't talk to people that way. You can't fight with people that way. And not just at work, but I spend most of my time at work, I guess, or a good portion of my time at work. So I think about it.
Yeah.
But also just in your life, like the way that people talk to other Satanists or talk about other Satanists or like fight with other Satanists is so far removed from the way I see anybody else interact with people in any part of their life.
Yeah.
Like I know you don't. I know that you have a job and you're an adult too.
When I see like internet Satanism, when I see like Reddit, and I know it's not true, and it makes me sad that it's not true, but I usually just assume these are all kids. These are just kids on here being like this. So it's like forgivable, like, all right, dumb kid, like you're just a kid. Like I don't say that, but that's what it seems like.
I don't think that
but I know it's not
but
true. I know there's got to be like full adults on there.
I think there's a lot of adults. When I'm in a place that feels like there's children, I think you can tell they're very young. I don't know, it's children, very young people.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a lot of adults talking, and so a lot of them. I don't want this. This is not a blanket statement. There are some very nice, very professional, very like normal seeming people out there. But then there are other people. People probably you could say the same thing about me. People are probably like, God, that bitch is so
judgy.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. But I don't know how else to say it. I'm never looking for the drama. The drama, no.
The drama finds you.
No, the drama doesn't find me. But I hang out with some people that the drama finds very easily. So
yeah. That's what's wrong with Satanism. Yeah. That's it. Should we wrap it up?
What are your good things and great things and bad things about Satanism?
I think I should reverse the order.
Okay.
I was saying I don't want to.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to end on like a down note, right? Aren't you supposed to end with like good news or whatever? I don't know. What do I think is wrong with Satanism? There are plenty of little things about the culture surrounding Satanism that I don't love. One that comes to mind is the overall pussification of Satanism for lack of a better word. I don't know why Satanism, of all things, would be full of plushies and pink stuff and have some desire to make Satan or Satanism cute and soft and less threatening to the squares. It feels like a cry for acceptance from a mainstream culture, and that has never sounded like a trait of Satanism to me. Satanism was the opposite of, look, everybody, we're cute and innocent and wouldn't hurt a fly. Please accept us. And I say I don't know why, but really I probably do. At the top of the list is that I kind of hate that the reputation of Satanism became so tainted with politics in the minds of so many. The Satanic Temple attracts a lot of people who fit the mold of the victimized good guy who really wants people to know their important, virtuous political opinions. Say what you will about the elitist mentality of Church of Satan, I'll take that any day over the perpetual victim with a good guy badge. And what do I think is great about Satanism? This might sound strange, but this was actually the harder question. And not because it's hard to think of things I like about Satanism, but it's just hard to articulate sometimes, at least for me. One thing we heard from several people is freedom. And that's a very broad idea, as we said, but it applies here in many different ways. Because of the inherent outsider aspect of Satanism, it's often going to appeal to people who already feel like an outsider in one way or another. And in most cases, these people don't feel like an outsider because they are bad or broken or not good enough. But sometimes it feels that way. You can feel that way because of your own insecurities, or it can feel that way because of negative interactions with psychic vampires and other assorted assholes scattered throughout our lives. So it's easy to fall into believing that what you're doing is wrong, how you feel is wrong. Once you take a real step into Satanism, just deep enough to scratch the surface and start reading what it's about and the ways that people talk about it, you get that eye-opening feeling that so many new Satanists discover. That feeling of, wait a minute, this is how I feel. This is already me. Well, once you discover this established religion or philosophy, it validates you. And some folks really do need external validation like that, at least sometimes. And once that validation happens, the door is open. Now the freedom really begins. Once you're not hung up on fear, guilt, shame, and abstaining from everything, you can start to live an actual life. You can be free to explore the ideas and feelings and desires that come to you naturally. You can embrace who you really are. That can be a powerful discovery, and it can also be a powerful rediscovery or reminder that happens from time to time. I could go on about the benefits of our community or the motivation toward charity or many other things. But all right, that is one aspect that I think is great about Satanism. And before I forget, I want to thank the wonderful members of Satanic Delco who took time to send in some answers for this. Thank you guys. I got quite a few, and we can't get to them all because this podcast would be 7 hours long. But I appreciate everyone who contributes, and I really mean that. It's good that we have a pretty interactive community going on with people from all over the place. Kirsten, thank you for joining me once again.
Thank you for having me.
If you've got a moment out there, please visit the website at hailsatanpodcast.com. I'd like you to stay safe out there, and hail Satan.
Schikten hebben. Hier wordt wie is er